And welcome to the Expert CRE Secrets podcast, where we believe most commercial real estate brokers, M&A advisors, and luxury real estate agents struggle with clarifying their passive income options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven brokerage strategy, such as the EXP commercial model and purchasing investment real estate, is the best way for you to grow your wealth. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best commercial real estate brokers, agents, luxury realtors, M&A advisors, business brokers, so they can share their ideas and they can share their inspiration and deal stories and expertise. So together we can make complex broker strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He is out of the great state of Kentucky, originally from Italy, and spent some time in Arizona. He's a licensed commercial real estate agent specializing in income producing property, transitioning from a career in software. He brings a strong technical background, a love for dissecting complex problems to his client interactions. These characteristics enable him to provide innovative and effective real estate solutions to help his clients get the most out of each transaction. Please welcome to the show with me, Raphael Collazo. Raphael, how you doing?
Great. You did a great job saying my last name, so that's awesome.
Hey, I do the best I can. I got the Swarts, right? So I think it's a little bit, butchered sometimes, but I'm with you. I'm with you, and I appreciate you being on the show, and excited to get to know you a little bit more. I had the privilege of being on your show, which we'll mention here later during the show. And so let's dive right in. So for our listeners wanting to get to know you a little bit more, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned kind of in the introduction, so my name is Raphael Collazo. I'm located here in the great state of Kentucky in Louisville, actually. I was born in Italy. My dad was actually in the Air Force, so we traveled a lot when I was younger, till I was about 14. So I lived in Italy, Belgium, and Germany, and then moved to the United States. Went to college at Arizona State University, studied engineering, got into software, did that for about 5 years, and then back in mid 2019, got into commercial real estate, and I've been doing it ever since. So like you said in the introduction, I've been focusing a lot on the income producing side of real estate. So I've done several deals in the retail side with shopping centers, multifamily. I'm trying to get more into the industrial side as well to assimilate in that. And so it's been great. It's been a great couple of years.
Very cool. And by the way, for our listeners who are listening on capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and on our YouTube channel, iTunes there as well, I forgot to mention we also bring on guests who have expertise with 1031 exchanges, with investment property, tax deferral, and we'll be talking about that here in a minute as well. But if you're listening there too, we so appreciate you. The intro is a little bit different, but there's a lot of overlap there. So, but let's dive right back into Raphael's story, and I want to get into that more in a minute. But I want to take a step back to maybe the days in Italy, right? Maybe the days of amazing food and amazing culture and history and like just so much stuff that Europe has to offer that America doesn't have. So I want you to go back to those days. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life. Some people call them superpowers. Some people call them strengths. I believe they're God-given gifts, and they've been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I'm curious, what are those one or two gifts that you believe you were given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Sure. Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. I've always been very good at dissecting very complex problems. I've always kind of had a knack for that. Along with that, I think through my experiences of traveling so much, I've had to assimilate into unique environments. Otherwise, I was kind of that kid that no one liked, right? Because you essentially get put in a situation on a regular basis where you don't know anyone. So it got me to the point where I was able to relate with people very well, and that helped me build a pretty sizable network through just having the fact that I was moving so much. So I guess those are some of the two superpowers that I have. I really love working on complex problems, and commercial real estate offers that opportunity. In particular, when we're talking about the investment side, when you start dealing with taxes and everything else. So
I think that's so cool. And especially having that background, and I imagine you speak multiple languages and you're great at dissecting complex problems, which is so needed right now in this industry, right? With so many challenges that we're facing and trying to make deals make sense, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Basically, and the second thing, assimilating well with others, right? Being able to you had to move around a lot. So that's just naturally, you had to get to know friends and connect with people quickly. Is that a fair summary?
I would say so, yeah. That's a very fair summary. And again, it's one of those things where you're kind of forced into it, but you naturally adapt through just being forced in those situations. So
beautiful. Well, let's dive right into what we're talking about today, which is commercial real estate brokerage and investments with Raphael Collazo. So Raphael, what's I think the number one secret right now for succeeding in commercial real estate in Louisville, and I think we talked a little bit about retail, a little bit about multifamily. Kind of give us what you're seeing on the ground there, and what's your take on opportunities and deals.
Yeah, so I think on the business generation side, obviously technology has afforded us a lot of unique opportunities. I mean, I love the fact you're doing the podcast. I also have a podcast, a YouTube, several meetups as well. So there's different nodes that you can put out there to be able to generate leads outside of the traditional, prospecting, cold calling. Not to say that that's not a great opportunity to be able to do that, and I still do have that in my repertoire. But there's so many other nodes you can create from a business standpoint in order to generate a significant amount of leads through mediums like YouTube, podcasting, etc. As far as deal opportunities are concerned, I mean, we're seeing a lot of activity in the multifamily space. We have a pretty good industrial background here in Louisville, so a lot of people are looking to invest in those types of properties. In particular, if you're a business owner, having the opportunity to maybe buy up a property and then lease out half of it or however much through acquiring like an SBA loan is something that I've seen a lot of it in recent months and really over COVID. And so those are just some of the things that I've seen. I don't know if you have anything in particular more that you'd like to know about the area.
No, just I'm just curious on the ground, the local ground of Louisville, right? I mean, you places like Nashville, Tennessee, or places Tampa Bay, Florida, and Austin, Texas, and these Phoenix, Arizona. A lot of the migration from New York or California are going to these different areas, and I haven't heard much about Kentucky one way or the other. So I'm just curious on what's the temperature of the market. What's the kind of the migration patterns, and where do you see some good opportunities?
Yeah, so I mean, we're definitely not experiencing the same level of growth as you see in some of these other larger markets, but I think we're well positioned within the middle of the country to experience some of that growth in the near term. I think from a investment standpoint, we're well positioned in that our market is pretty affordable. We're one of the. I think I saw an article the other day that said that Louisville is one of the top 20 cities from an affordability standpoint. So from a cost of living perspective, people can live here and have a pretty good life on not necessarily the highest salary as you can see in some of these other larger markets. So I think there's a unique opportunity for people who are looking to buy investment property in particular because you can get closer to making the math work from a cash flow perspective. Because I feel like a lot of these larger markets where you're seeing a lot of cash investment, cap rates are compressing, and the cash flow almost doesn't even work. Whereas in Louisville, I feel like a lot of investment properties cash flow pretty well. So
excellent.
I guess
that would affordability and seeing some growth there. How about just the ability to build? Like if someone wanted to build 100 to 200, 300 units, what's the red tape like there in Louisville, and what would be some micro locations that you think are up and coming?
Yeah. So again, it depends on the sector as you identified. So there's certain sub-cities within Louisville or subsectors within Louisville where there may be some contention depending on what the project is. We have a parcel of land that we had listed for a while. We were trying to encourage a developer to come down there and build affordable housing for veterans because it was located across the street from a veteran community. And so that was, or the veteran hospital, I should say. So that's some of the initiatives that we were pushing for just in that particular area. But there's a lot of opportunity, in particular in workforce housing, affordable housing, and that's something that's really across the country. So there's various sectors of the city where there's land that could be utilized to be able to develop some of these larger workforce housing communities. And also on the industrial side, there's a lot of industrial activity. So you're seeing a lot of industrial developers starting building these massive 500 square foot facilities. And they're getting filled, which is the demand's there. So it's very interesting.
Excellent. No, appreciate you sharing that. And what would you say the biggest challenge is right now for either some of your clients when it comes to either A, finding deals that make sense and underwriting, or B, just out, there's so many, maybe are you getting outbid or multiple offers? Like give me kind of the strategy right now that you're talking to sellers and buyers.
So from a seller's perspective, and this is something, especially on the multifamily side, I've had several listings over the past couple months, and just throwing it out there is pretty much enough. You get 8, 10 offers on a single property, even if the cash flow at the time you sell it is not justifiable. It's just there's so much money out there, and people are doing 1031 exchanges where they need to place money, and they have to place their money somewhere, and so we're getting a lot of that money coming in to the market, and it's great for sellers. As far as buyers are concerned, I mean, really just being quick and active on a deal. If you do like it, you need to execute quickly. And there's a lot of situations in particular on the retail side and sometimes in the primarily in the multifamily side, and even sometimes on the retail side, where it's hard to gain access to some of the units because of what's going on with COVID and everything. So being comfortable with making an offer, even if it's sight on scene, is something that's becoming more common, which hopefully over the next 6 to 12 months changes. But that's just the reality that we find ourselves in.
That's great. A common question I have for a lot of my commercial real estate team and brokers I work with is, the source of those listings, right? Because listings are gold right now, and you're absolutely right. I have a couple multifamily listings right now. It's the exact same thing. It's red hot, multiple offers, and it's, they're few and far between to find deals that make sense. So for those deals, I'm curious on the tracking of those. Were those cold call relationships from years ago? Were those, podcasts, YouTube, like what meetups, what were the source of those ones?
So actually, it was a combination of things. The most recent ones I got actually was surprisingly from postcards. And then once I got the individual reach out to those individuals, it's just closing. I have a book that I wrote. It's called Before You Sign That Lease, and so I created a really nice packet that explained everything that we could provide them. Gave them a copy of my book, and then we sat down, met, and just kind of bonded through that experience. And I was able to get 2 listings from one individual. There's another listing that I had that was primarily related to the cold calling efforts. And then, through the meetups and podcast episodes and YouTubes that I do, I've gotten a lot of buyer clients and a lot of people who are looking for property that kind of look to me as the expert within the market. So
yeah, that's awesome. I heard a strategy, and I'm considering doing it now because I grew up in Sacramento, Roseville, this Bay Area. I know this market very, very well. It's intimate from the very beginning. And there's people now, and maybe you're doing it, I don't know, but have a cameraman and you're walking the properties, you're walking the locations, you're walking the schools and the restaurants and wherever you're at. And you're just sharing what you've always shared on these tours that you normally would share with anyone, but you're just taping yourself as you do it. Then you put it on YouTube, and then people are like, oh, he really knows the market because he does. And then they can see that. Any strategies there that you're doing there?
So we're looking to do with one of my business partners that we have a development firm that we're looking to start. We're looking to do something called the Small Business Spotlight, where we identify business owners within the market that are doing cool things and just kind of sit down and interview them. And there's various benefits to doing that. Number one, you get to meet business owners, which are kind of our target audience. Number two, you create a piece of content that's out there, so it shows that you're in the market and you know the market. And then another thing is the business owners love sharing that content because it really highlights their goals and what they're trying to accomplish within their business. So it's a kind of like a 3-pronged approach when it comes to just interacting with your target audience. And obviously what you're talking about is phenomenal too, like vlogging about different things that you're doing. And I've seen plenty of people doing that, and they seem to be doing very well with it. So
yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think I focus on multifamily, it's like my specialty, and then I wonder if the answer would be you go to the property manager, right? And you're like, hey, can I do a spotlight on the apartment complex and just kind of get your take on the occupancy and the concessions and things that are helping to bring traffic and because that's valuable too, because a lot of what we do as brokers is we do rent surveys, right? And obviously sales comp surveys where you're figuring out what's the pulse of the market? Are they offering concessions? Are they offering specials, right? Where are the leads coming from? Is it Craigslist? Is it ads? Is it print ads? Is it postcards? Is it referral based, right? If they're giving referral, what is the referrals? And the full-size washer and dryers, and they charging for rubs, or are they charging for parking? And these are all these things that we're already doing, but if we put them on camera, then everyone else gets a chance to benefit from that. So any thoughts on that strategy? I'm kind of thinking out loud as I'm talking here, but what do you think about that?
100% agree with you. I mean, I every week what I do is I have like a frequently asked questions section, and I just create a video on frequently asked questions that I get, or I think that someone would think about that is pertaining to commercial real estate. And so it's just me acting like I'm sitting across the way from someone and just explaining exactly what I would do in this particular situation. And I can't tell you how many times I've had people say like, that video was awesome, like I didn't even know anything about that, or I've had other people that I've sent the link to and said, hey, I actually did a video on this. So content is king in my opinion, and I think what you're doing with this podcast is a great testament to that. So
cool, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm curious too for you, maybe you can plug your show because people can learn more about real estate and what you're doing. What's the YouTube channel and what's your podcast?
Yeah, so the YouTube channel is just my name. It's Raphael Collazo, and I talk about commercial real estate concepts and talk. I have several meetups that I run. One is the Commercial Real Estate 101 meetup. I run the Louisville Real Estate Investor Meetup Group, and then the podcast you're referring to, which actually Brett was a guest on our podcast, and he did a great job. Learned a ton about what you're doing, and it's a really interesting tax strategy, which I didn't know much about prior to having you on. So it was really cool to be able to do that. But the podcast itself is called the Commercial Real Estate Academy, and we're trying to become the go-to resource for all commercial real estate questions and needs and whatever else. And so we love having people like you and other people within the industry to talk about different concepts within commercial real estate, because I feel like the content in commercial real estate is very fragmented. And so if there's a way we can, kind of compress it into an area where people can go to it, it would be a benefit to the industry. So
awesome. And on your meetups, are you doing like physical, local meetups? You doing Zoom, a little bit of both? What's your strategy there? And are you taping the live ones in person?
That is correct. So that is something we've been doing. So as far as the live meetups are concerned, I have been trying to film them in person. We've had some technical issues the last 2 times, but I have the camera and everything, so we're starting to do that, film it in person. We also do a virtual meetup called Commercial Real Estate 101. Yeah. We have a virtual meeting every other week, and we have people tuning in from all over the country. I mean, it's pretty amazing. New York, California, literally all over the country. Florida, Texas, you name it, we have people tune in from those locations, and it's just been awesome. It's been so cool. Yeah, and the power of LinkedIn is amazing. I mean, that's kind of how we've grown our presence with the Commercial Real Estate 101 meetup, and it's been great.
That's phenomenal. And it's great for your clients too, right? Because all of a sudden, Raphael has been able to network across the nation. He's no longer just Louisville, right? He's developing relationships and connections with the 1031 exchange buyer out of New York or California or wherever with the brokers. I did a co meetup with a gentleman, and it was great because he's out of Kansas City. Logan Freeman. Now the name's coming back to me. I got 5 kids. Yeah. And we did it for about 6-7 weeks, and it was great because I got a chance to know him. He could share his content. We had people come in, and maybe Raphael, we talk about me and you being doing something like that in the future. But what's neat about it is it's like iron sharpens iron, right? And then you just keep growing the network and you keep growing the knowledge, and it's like the brain trust, right? Get everyone together, share the information, build a rapport, build the trust, and then start sharing. Hey, I got a person who's in a bind, or he's looking to do this, and I've got someone here named Raphael that I met via the meetup and via the Commercial Real Estate Academy. He's adding value. I'm getting to know him. So all of that is really, really cool. By the way, if someone wants to get in your meetup, Raphael, where can they find you?
So for the Commercial Real Estate 101 meetup, it's actually on LinkedIn. So we have a LinkedIn group called the Commercial Real Estate 101 meetup, and I post all the events in there. We also have our link on the meetup.com. And that you can find both the Commercial Real Estate 101 meetup and the Louisville Real Estate Investor meetup group there. And it's pretty amazing. Once you start a group and it starts to grow, we've had people come in out of the state to attend the meetup at the end of the month, like the physical meetup here in Louisville. We had a guy this last month that came in from Idaho, and I was like, You just flew in from Idaho to come to this meetup? But he was there, he was looking at properties, and he's like, yeah, I'm all about it. So it's pretty impressive. Right? Yeah.
It's really an honor, right? When you can serve people on that level and help them out and make a difference in their investment lives. So very, very cool. I'm glad you talked about that, and thanks for diving into that. By the way, you can also learn more about Raphael Collazo, and I might have messed that up, but and I'm going to spell this for everyone who's listening. Raphael, his last name, COLLAZO.com. Okay, and so you can go there. That's RaphaelCollazo.com. And with that being said, let's shift a little bit to the biggest frustration with the 1031 exchange and capital gains tax challenges. I'm curious what your take is on that for your clients, either 1031s or selling a primary home or cryptocurrency or stock doesn't qualify for a 1031. What's been your biggest frustration? Maybe there's a deal story to bring this to life for us.
So yeah, I've been working with several people who have 1031 or doing a 1031 exchange. I haven't actually completed one as of late. Again, I've only been in the business for 2 years, but I have been working with several people right now. And the biggest hurdle we're finding is that, finding a property that's right for them in a constricted time frame. And I think you've referenced this on time and time again. Some people feel like they're almost forced to buy something when in reality, there's other strategies out there, like you mentioned on your podcast all the time, that could be a better option. And so that's what I've been trying to kind of encourage people to explore as an opportunity. But you're right. I mean, I think that's the biggest hurdle that a lot of people face, is that they see all these properties out there that are just trading at ridiculous cap rates, and the cash flow is not there. And they're just like, well, shoot, I have to buy something. There's no other opportunity. So.
Yeah, we call it the shotgun wedding, right? When you get forced between a rock and a hard place, either pay the tax or buy the property, and that's where you can get hurt, right? Because you let the tax tail wag the investment dog, and you have to just try to take those apart. And the only way to really take those apart is we found that gives you the flexibility and the diversification and the option to go back into real estate whenever you want is the Deferred Sales Trust, not to be confused with the Delaware Statutory Trust, which is just another form of a 1031 exchange. It's also known as a DST. People get those confused all the time. And you can learn more about that at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. But if you are a commercial real estate broker or even an investor, you should really, really understand this because this can unlock listings. Because one of the biggest challenges I had when I was at Marcus and Millichap, Raphael, would be this. You call somebody, you start to build some rapport, you got underwrite the property, they're ready to list, and then all of a sudden they talk to their CPA and they go, oh my gosh, and they go, well, go find me that upleg because I don't want to pay this tax, or I'm not going to make the deal with the buyer until I have my upleg, and it became this, solve for X, which is the upleg, because of Y, which is the tax, or I'm not selling for Z. And so at the end of the day, if you can't solve for those two things, you're not selling the deal, or you're not getting the listing. And so what I found is as I applied the Deferred Sales Trust and I say, hey, look, let's just eliminate the need for the 1031 altogether. Let's sell your property, or let's go for your 1031 and we can save a failed 1031 with the Deferred Sales Trust. Once you understand the power of that, it gives your sellers so much leverage. It gives your buyers leverage too, because they can unlock a deal from a seller who is reluctant to sell for the same reason. And so at the end of the day, I would like to say, Raphael, is we're not in the business of selling real estate or even selling tax solutions, right? Like the Deferred Sales Trust. We're in the business of solving problems. And if we can solve their problem, guess what? You can win the listing, or guess what? You can win that deal. And so I encourage you to get to know about the Deferred Sales Trust, learn more and more about it. We're closing these things every single week for clients who have real problems in crypto, business, real estate, saving failed 1031 exchanges. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You can also go to expertcresecrets.com to learn more about that as well. That being said, Raphael, any thoughts on that before we go to the lightning round?
No, I think you're 100% right on that. And again, it's one of those things that a lot of people just don't think about. And it's definitely something I've been trying to educate my clients a little bit more on when it comes to the 1031 exchange process, in particular if you don't have that upleg already identified. So that's great.
Exactly. Cool. Right on. Well, let's go on to the lightning round. So you ready?
Always ready.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20 or 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you'd make sure to tell yourself to do?
Just be consistent. I mean, that's the biggest thing in life, right? It's small daily actions add up to massive results. And so if I was 20 years old, if I was go back to myself at 20 years old, I would say, don't get too hung up on the idea of you have to be a millionaire by the time you're XYZ. Focus on every single day producing at a high level, but small, consistent actions every single day.
Amazing. There's a book called The Slight Edge.
Yeah.
That's an amazing book to read about that, or the compound effect on that for any
That
of
was the book
those.
that I read. That was the book I read, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, that changed my life and my perspective.
It's amazing. Great. Thanks for sharing that. Which leads into the second question. Besides those two books, what's the number one book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Wow, that's a great question. Probably Profit First. It's a book by Mike Michalowicz that talks about how to effectively run your business and manage cash flow within your business. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles a lot of people face is that, they have money coming in and they spend it, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, where'd everything go? And then you have a tax bill that comes at the end of the year and you don't know how to manage your cash flow very well. So I've given that to several of my business owner friends, and it's changed the way I approach my business.
100%. Same here. I'm in the process of opening up multiple bank accounts, right, to get it into Profit First and get everything kind of in order. So I encourage that as well. Excellent. Third question. What's the biggest obstacle facing commercial real estate brokers?
I think that, and again, I may be biased in this. I come from a technology background, so I'm really, really big in adopting technology in any facet of your life, and in particular, when you're talking about the digital age that we find ourselves in, getting on YouTube, getting on a podcast, really creating content on a regular basis is something that, in my opinion, is going to be critical going forward in the brokerage business. And those who are not doing that now are probably going to pay for it 10 to 20 years down the line when, there's a bunch of built up content. So, if you're in the business right now, consider doing it, because right now it's not very saturated. There's literally not a lot of people doing this stuff. So if you can stand out early on, you could be a market leader pretty quickly.
Amazing. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Second to last question. What are you most curious about right now?
What am I most curious about? That's a great question. I don't know. I'm always been trying to find ways to optimize things that I do. There's definitely certain activities that I'm doing every single day that I probably shouldn't be doing. One of the big things that I'm exploring right now is hiring a virtual assistant for a lot of the admin work that I'm doing and some of the other functions that, I probably should not be doing. I outsource like mowing my lawn, for example, because in reality, I don't like doing it. And, if I could pay someone to do it, that's going to be, more efficient at it and likes it, then it's better for me to do it. So that's one of the things that I'm more curious about, is trying to optimize the way I approach my day-to-day operations.
Yeah. By the way, I have 4 full-time virtual assistants, and literally, like, my whole business would fall apart if it wasn't for them, right? For their support and their team, and, their efforts and their strengths. And it's exactly right. Spending the time that's highest and best use for your value of your business and for your clients, which I found is creating content, solving problems, underwriting deals, and and finding leads and finding opportunities for them to buy the properties or find opportunities for them to invest into deals. So I couldn't agree with you more. Last question. After all your success, after being a broker, investor, helping a lot of people, how do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
That's another great question. I think the biggest thing that I've learned in life is to schedule time to do stuff. Because that's the biggest hurdle. Is you can work on your business 24/7, and I'm kind of a workaholic. I love work. I really enjoy producing at a high level, and so it can be very easy for me to let things fall by the wayside and not really engage with the people that I love. And so, being diligent about making sure that I set aside time to be able to do that with my fiance, my friends, etc., is very, very important. And as far as reaching new heights, I think it's always just reassessing yourself, reevaluating your goals, and seeing how you're progressing. Because it's very easy to write a goal and say, okay, yeah, I want to hit XYZ by the end of the year. But if you never revise it over the course of that year, you don't know if you're on track to hit it. So really, that's the key factors that I think are, you know, the game changers.
Love it. Beautiful. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's various ways you can get in contact with me. Obviously, I'm on LinkedIn. You can just type in Raphael Collazo, and then you find me. I have a YouTube channel. You can reach out through there. My number is 502-536-7315. If you want to just have a conversation and learn a little bit more about the market, happy to do that. And then my email is raphael@grisantigroup.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Again, I'm just trying to be a resource for individuals who are looking to either invest or buy or sell commercial real estate in the Louisville area. So.
Beautiful. By the way, Collazo is spelled Collazo. Raphael, I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge, your expertise, some of the inner workings of your business and what you're doing to help your clients and partners create and preserve more wealth in commercial real estate. I want to encourage you to keep dissecting complex problems and making them really simple. And then also continue to play well in the sandbox with others, right? From all over the place, right? To make more friends, to help more people. So thanks so much for being on the show. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. And also Expert CRE Secrets podcast for those who are looking for ways to grow their brokerage business, level up their brokerage game. That could be M&A advisors, luxury real estate, commercial real estate agents. You can learn more about that at expertcresecrets.com. Thank you so much for listening and watching this. If you're watching on YouTube, please rate, review, and subscribe. We